Greetings, Everblack. Welcome to the Jason Black podcast. That's not right. Let me start over. Jokes aside, Jace, thanks for coming along, mate. Really appreciate you being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So Hot Water Music's been going strong for 30 years. Firstly, massive accomplishment for the band, so congrats on that. Secondly, what's the secret to career longevity?
Frequent breakups, I guess, for us. I don't really know. I mean, I think part of it is that we're lucky, obviously. I would like to say good communication, but that's been a pretty recent development for us. So I don't know that kind of can, like, the last 7 years or so, we could file under much improved communication between there and good. We really like doing this, because it's not like we're some sort of massively huge band that's just would continue to do it just because of that or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure there's plenty of massive bands that maybe they don't even talk to each other, and it doesn't matter because it's just this machine of things. So we really do like making music and playing music, and I also really like, not as much as I used to and not as often as I used to, but I think the traveling aspect of it is still cool. Like, I don't like being away from my wife and dogs, but I like going to different places a lot, and I think that's informed so much of how all of us have grown up, being able to go to so many different places, being lucky enough to go to so many different parts of the States and then other countries over and over and over again. It's like, I wouldn't really trade that for anything. So to give you absolutely no answer to your question, I'm not sure why we're still here. People will still have us, so that's why we're here, I guess.
Just keep making awesome music, and then the career will just keep tracking while you make awesome music.
That's the plan.
So talking of your music, the new album is incredible. How did the writing process differ on this album than previous ones, and how long did it take to write?
This one, it came together pretty quickly. The last two have been, I would say, so there's a couple, not to go too far backwards, but from the beginning through Caution, everything was written basically in our practice space. We would rehearse 4 or 5 days a week. That's just kind of everything we did was the band, which I think is one of the reasons we broke up so many times. So then that, after Caution, was the first time that we all didn't live in the same town. So then writing became a little weird for that kind of gray area period where we weren't putting things out regularly and we were scattered about. And also because technology hadn't quite caught up. We hadn't caught up with technology. Both, it's a double-edged sword there, or two-way communication problem. So I think when we finally got to the record before Val's Feel the Void and the pandemic happened, everyone was in lockdown, everyone pretty much had home recording capabilities at that point of some form or the other, and enough knowledge to use them to get something done.
Yeah.
And Zoom had kind of come into the picture. So, but then we also added a fifth member for that one. So that was a little steep learning curve on that one. And then Val's was kind of more the same thing. We weren't sure we were going to make a new record. We just wanted to make some new music for our 30th anniversary. That's sort of where we started. And it just sort of snowballed into a record, which is kind of the best thing you can hope for when it just sort of happens. I think the biggest difference this time around is Chuck sometimes annually does this thing where he goes to a ranch for a week and plays campfire type songs for people there. When he was there this time, Chris Cresswell went out, and then Brian McTurnan went out also, and so they kind of worked through a lot of skeletons that we had laying around, just like this song's not quite finished, that song's not quite finished. And that was sort of like stage one was Wallard and George and I coming up with a lot of musical skeletons here, and then those dudes taking those and some other things and kind of taking them to the next step. So that was the big difference this time. I think that kind of change of scenery for those dudes was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was like it's the turning point in this record. There's always one weird, it's never the same thing where it's like all of a sudden event X happens and then the record's like, oh, we're on a good path now. Like everything feels cool and we'll probably get there. So
So from the new album, what is the crowd favorite when you're in the live setting? What's received the best?
Yeah, I would, out of what we've been playing, I mean, I feel like Menace is doing really well. After the Impossible is doing really well. Remnants has been kind of, we've really thought that was going to be a big crowd hit, or just, I mean, we love playing it, so it kind of doesn't matter, but that one's been a little mid. I mean, we've been playing Fences some, which goes over well. Burn Forever goes over really well. That's kind of, we've only gotten those 4 or 5 together so far. We haven't gotten all the way through everything yet. I think we'll probably add 1 or 2 more coming up here for the European tour and for when we come down there. But it's hard because we have fucking 10 records, so it's just like there is not a set where I'm like we're missing a song from. We're always missing something from some record usually. So it's true, and we just want to play all the new stuff. But the last 2 records have really gone over really well with the audience from the jump, which has been cool. Usually it would take like till the next record came out for that to be the case, but somehow graduated past that time frame, which is cool.
Awesome. So we get quite a few collaborations on this album. Thrice, The Interrupters, City and Colour. 2 parts to this. What's been your favorite collab so far, and who would you like to do a collab with?
Oh, that's good. It's kind of all the stuff we have on the new record is cool in its own. I'm not trying to make like a super like milquetoast answer for this. It's all cool in such its own special way that I couldn't really pick a favorite.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even just having Popeye from Farside and Calling Hours on there, like that band, if they had never released Rigged, we would never be a band. So there's just all kinds of cool things. A lot of it's like that sort of thing where it's like you really affected our music. Some of it's like our friends that we've known forever, like Dal and the Thrice guys. And then the Turnstile guys, just like cool mutual admiration. Same thing with the Interrupters. So they all kind of fall in their own little bucket. I mean, for me doing collabs moving forward would be stuff no one else wants to do. Like, I don't know. LP, I would really love to have LP from Run the Jewels produce anything for us, and definitely rap on it, but his production is awesome and his songwriting is killer. That's always where my brain goes, is something a little more left field like that, where it's like, or Thundercat, or I don't know. I don't have a lot of like punk or hardcore collaboration wish list. I would say we should get Vogel from Terror on something, but we did that split with them, so that kind of like ticks that box pretty good. So I don't know. I'm good on collabs for now, unless somebody like super wild comes up. Like, which, I mean, we had so much fun doing these. We might probably try to do it again for the next record, I hope.
Awesome. Well, let's sit here and wait for like LP to just like see this and then go, you know what, that'd be freaking cool.
Weird shit like that happens sometimes, never to us, but I do, you never know. So
So it's been a few years since you've been down under. What do you guys remember from the last time you were here? I think that was 2018 with No FX.
It was not great for us. We kind of knew that going in. It just is not, like, those guys have been friends for a long time. We've just known each other forever, and we were happy to come down and do the shows because we knew they would be huge. But it's just 2 super different crowds. Which we knew. It was cool to come down. Like, we love it down there. And you have to do things like that. You at the end of the day, ultimately, you're hoping that you're playing to people that haven't heard you before that end up liking you. So fingers crossed that
Me.
happened.
That was me.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. So it did work. um, it's just tricky. Like the punkier stuff is really tricky for us because you never really. I mean, we've done a lot of it historically, and especially like George plays in Bouncing Souls too, and Chris and Flatliners, they do a lot of that stuff too. And for us, it's like real hit and miss if it just is like cool because we stand out or bad because we stand out. So it's kind of like, it's gonna go one way or the other. I'm really excited to come back and do club shows and headline, and just I want to say it's been 14 years. I think we figured out since our
Yeah.
last headliner.
14, 15 since the last headline, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's crazy. We used to come every couple of years. So I'm really happy to be coming down and getting to so many places too. I think I mean, knock on wood, we've never not had an awesome time down there.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking we will again.
Yeah. Amazing. So when you are touring in foreign countries and whatnot, do you feel it gives you some inspiration to write new music, or do you leave the writing process to when you return home and try to live in the moment while you're on tour?
Kind of 50-50 on that. It depends. We might end up like down there is a little tricky because it's like there's just so much travel. Like get up, go to the airport, fly, get up, go to the airport, fly. But that doesn't, I mean, kind of the other component to down there is we're usually staying in like apartment hotels or whatever. So everyone's kind of in the same room. So in that case, we could start working on stuff. It'll definitely be discussed a lot while we're there.
Yeah.
Like we need to start working on songs. So we might. Europe, I think we probably will when we go to Europe in November. And that's a little more of a like routine setup where the bus we'll wake up at the venue probably, and the venue will probably be open. Like Europe's awesome like that. If you get up at 10 or 11, they're usually open and there's food and coffee and backstage is kind of up and running. So those are the kind of tours where we can actually get some stuff done because everyone can kind of have a full day of like being at work before the show where it's like, hey, everybody go eat and let's go do stuff. So we don't really have like a set like a guideline to that, but I would say that everything that we come up with on the road is usually pretty skeletal as far as like it'll be a nugget of an idea or something like that. We'll just start shoving them all in a Dropbox until we get home and start sifting through them.
Nice. So like I said before, 30 years, just absolutely massive. Ever considered the greatest hits album, or is that just a faux pas these days?
I think if we were to do some kind of a retrospective V collection or something like that, it would probably be which everyone would hate because we would probably re-record some things only because we don't really ever play things exactly like we recorded them anyway. Kind of never have. It's always just sort of been like, this is how it is tonight. I mean, it's the same, but the individual little, like, you know, all the little bells and whistles are always pretty different. And some of our old records sound like trash because they just do. They were made a long time ago and we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have any money to make it or whatever. So there's a good chunk of songs that I wouldn't mind, like, not even really changing, just recording better.
Yeah.
You know, but then you kind of mess with the like, it's sort of one of those things where like, sometimes when bands do that, I'm like, God, this sounds so much better. I'm so happy. But I never really cared that it sounded bad in the first place if I liked it. So it's sort of like, it's kind of okay, leaving it as is. So I can see us doing something like that, or maybe something like, there's consistently talk about like, you guys should do an acoustic record. And then we talk about doing an acoustic record. And it's not something that we don't want to do. I think it's just something that we don't want to do, like, I don't want to say half-assed and like make it sound like demeaning towards how anyone else would handle it, but like we would definitely want to like elevate the songs instead of just playing them with acoustic guitars. So it's like if
Yeah.
we're gonna do something like that, like let's come up with some cool arrangements and some cool instrumentations and like really go for it. So then you're basically kind of making a record at that point.
Yeah.
But that's been something that kind of gets kicked up a little more often because, like you said, it's been 30 years. Like I think it would be people would appreciate that, and it'd probably be fun to do too. So we've kind of talked about that, but I feel like streaming took the greatest hits record like out of the mix. People
Yeah.
just make a playlist and go for
Yeah.
it.
People make
Everyone
their
gets their
own.
own greatest hits now. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So I have noticed the Jesus and Mary Chain shirt you've got on. Amazing. What is
Thank you.
one band that you would suggest to anyone that flies under the radar?
Hmm. I'm gonna have to look at my Apple. Here's the thing: I listen to so many records all day long. I'm in that constant, just like streaming everything all day, and I never even know what I'm listening to half the time. Let's see. I want to give like a nice, good suggestion for everyone too. I also feel like I'm like at that 8 and 48, so by the time I hear something, I'm definitely not telling people about something that they didn't know about. Like I'm like, oh, this band's cool, and then everyone's already, not everyone, but everyone younger is definitely already known that as a
Yeah,
band.
yeah.
You know, um, yeah, I don't know if I have. God, I gotta suggest somebody because it just sucks otherwise. Um, I never draw a blank on this stuff either. I mean, the last thing I've been listening to is the new LL Cool J record because it's really, really good. But I think everybody knows who he is.
Yeah.
Shit, man.
But that's a release that could have flown under the radar anyway.
It could have,
Like
but Q-Tip produced it and it fucking shreds. It's so good.
I'm gonna check it out
Um,
because I mean LL has flown under my radar for years because I just didn't think that he was doing any more music. But
it's interesting. I saw an interview with him where he was talking about because he was on television for on NCIS or whatever, and he tried to do one record while he was on it, and he said he just like it basically didn't. He wasn't able to concentrate on it, and he didn't
yeah,
really like the record, and blah 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 blah. And then since he's done with that, he's moved on and like just back to music. And this record's sick. I would actually say the new Robert Glasper record is really good. He's maybe flown under anyone that listens to us, our radar. He works with kind of tangentially with the Roots sometimes, and just he's kind of in that new R&B jazz hip hop crossover thing. He just
yeah.
did a record called Code Derivation that it's all originals, and then he picked DJs to flip each song. So it's like they recorded the new song, and then in the studio with the DJ they flipped it too. So it's like
Oh
instead of
wow.
waiting for someone to sample it 10 years later, and it's all on the same record. It's really cool. So there's two suggestions for people to consume. They're both
Awesome.
fun for them.
So touring aside, what's next for Hot Water Music?
Writing the next record, I guess, for making the 11th record. We're just kind of keeping on the show side of things for now. We haven't done this much touring in a long, long time, and we've been lucky enough that we've been able to space everything out, and everything's been going well. So we're just gonna kind of try to actually give Vows its full like service as a record
Yeah.
or whatever. We're really happy with it, so we kind of want to give it its time to shine before we just sort of, memory hole it along with everything else, like
Yeah.
happens these days.
It blew me away when you guys dropped that album. I was privileged enough to get to review it
Thank
like
you.
pre-release, and first and foremost, Chuck's the graveliness of his voice it's like it's matured over time like a fine wine. But yeah, the whole
It's
thing
almost like a soul singer
instrumental.
now, kind of.
Yeah, like and instrumentally, like just a real punk core riffs and like I said, it just blew me away when it was dropped. It was just fantastic.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad you dig it.
So thank you so much for joining us today, Jason. It's been a privilege to talk to you. Can't wait to see you guys in February. So yeah, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Cheers, man. Appreciate it.